I know that there's a number of questions that have come up. It's been a little over 30 hours since the events that transpired yesterday, so rather than go into any kind of an opening comment, I'll just be more than willing to answer any questions that you may have relative to the events of yesterday and the impact here in Calgary.
What can you say as far as the RCMP are saying that this individual, the shooter, was known in Calgary to police? What can you say about that?
That was actually an inaccurate statement. We are looking into the background of the individual, but for sure we know that he has no criminal background in Calgary. He has no criminal record from Calgary, but we are continuing to look to see what, if any, connections he may have had within the community itself.
So do you even know if he was a resident here for a certain period of time? We're also told that he did have this Calgary as his address.
Here's what we do know. We do know that there was a vehicle that was registered here to a Calgary address. We also that address is one that was a local Islamic center located on 14th Avenue, just west of Sarcee Trail. We also know that that license plate and that vehicle also received what appears to be a photo radar ticket from Edmonton in early August. That just shows the plate and the vehicle were in Calgary at some point in time, or at least registered to Calgary, but certainly in Edmonton. So what we're doing now is we are endeavoring to investigate into any potential linkages to others in town, endeavor to find any other addresses that he may be associated to, and even find people who can confirm that what his activities may have been while he was in Calgary. But I will state again that there's no indication at all of his involvement in any criminal activity here in Calgary or any criminal record arising out of Calgary.
So is there an association from your standpoint to this Islamic center that he gave the address of?
Again, that would be speculation. That's one of the things we're going to look into, obviously. We want to obviously interview folks there, find out if he is known to them and what that relationship may be. By the same token, we will be interviewing a number of people just to determine what, if any, relationship he has to individuals in Calgary.
We went to that center and they claim they don't even know him. Doesn't that seem a little odd that he would give that address, and how can he even give that address as his motor vehicle registration?
And that's why we need to do the investigation. I can't imagine how overwhelmed Ottawa would have been yesterday at RCMP headquarters relative to the various files they've got underway. But right now what I can tell you is that because there is a link to Calgary through the registration of this vehicle, that we will be continuing to explore whatever relationships may have existed and hopefully determine how long he was in Calgary and what he was doing here.
Has there been any investigation into the fact that they say that he took a bus from Calgary to Ottawa? Like, has anybody checked that out?
Yeah, we have not gone to that length. Will that form part of our investigation? Sure, we will be looking into that. We'll be looking into any and all possible connections that we can identify here in Calgary.
RCMP are saying that Calgary was the most recent place he lived. Is that going to be part of the investigation to see what point he would have left Calgary?
We want to know everything about him. We're going to endeavor to find out whatever we can about him. How long he was in Calgary, where he may have lived if he was in Calgary, who he may have associated with if he was in Calgary. At this point in time, there's a whole lot of information that we don't have other than when he was here, if he was here. Personally, he would have had a very low profile because there's been nothing that would have put him on our radar screen, and certainly it appears that he wasn't significant on the RCMP radar screen as well as far as national security files go.
How would his name get on a photo radar ticket?
Well, when you get a photo radar ticket, it's who the plate is registered to. So if the plate is registered to him at that address, that's where the photo radar ticket would get sent to.
But the vehicle belonged to the Islamic Center, did it not?
The vehicle is registered to the Islamic Center.
So have
The address given for the registration to him was the address of that Islamic Center. That doesn't mean necessarily that he was there, and that would form part of the investigation that we would look into.
So would he have been pulled over that kind
No.
of photo radar, just the one?
He wouldn't have, because it was photo radar, he would not have been pulled over at all, so there's no confirmation that he would have even been driving that vehicle. As you know, the way photo radar works, or automated enforcement, takes a picture of the plate, takes a picture of the traffic light. In this case, it was a speeding ticket. And then a ticket is generated, goes to the address of the registered owner. So there doesn't have to be the registered owner driving the vehicle. The ticket is sent to the registered owner of the vehicle.
So do you have a record of him living in Alberta, like an Alberta driver's license, that kind of a thing?
We have not identified at this point in time that type of information. Are we going to continue to look into it? Absolutely.
Places you're looking, you've mentioned the Islamic Center. A question to the RCMP today was this study group, the 8th and 8th mosque that we've reported on. What sort of places are you going to be taking this investigation?
Well, that's the thing about investigations. You don't know where they're going to take you, but certainly we'll be exploring any potential leads that would lead us to any location. So we've got sources within the community that we'll be checking with to see if they recognize him or know anything about him. So with all investigations, you have to be thorough, you have to be meticulous, and you have to be accurate. So we want to make sure that before we start speculating any further on where he may have been, who he may have been hanging around with, even if he had any association to the mosque that the vehicle is registered to, we want to do a proper investigation to confirm any facts before we start saying that these are indeed facts.
So did this take you by surprise when the RCMP said that he had a criminal history in Calgary? And when did you ascertain that it was inaccurate?
Well, we knew yesterday. I mentioned in yesterday's media availability that we were looking at any links in assisting the Ottawa Police Service in their homicide investigation. We had a pretty comprehensive file that had been built up on him related to Calgary and the connections. We knew the vehicle was registered here to that address. We knew there was no criminal record in Calgary. I suspect that what happened with the preponderance of information that has been reviewed by the RCMP in Ottawa, I suspect that it was just misspoken, what came up in the newser today from Ottawa.
Okay, and also today they gave the number of individuals in Canada that are on the watch list. Can you say how many people in Calgary are on the watch list?
That would have to come from the RCMP.
Do Calgary police get involved in that, and are they notified of this watch list, or is that just an RCMP?
I'll tell you, this incident, we just finished a conference call about an hour and a half ago, a national conference call that included the major cities in Canada, the commissioner of the RCMP. Number one, we always on a regular basis provide any and all assistance that they need on any file. So we're always there to provide any support that's necessary. Number two, we have also all the major departments in Canada, Toronto, Edmonton, and Edmonton we've been conversing with them 4 or 5 times a day in regard to this relationship between police services in this country is second to none anywhere. And to a person, the chiefs on that conference call today said, whatever you need, our divorces will be available to you should you need them to monitor or help in any way. The third thing is, and it's ironic given the events of yesterday, but about a month ago I was in conversation with the Premier who had identified the fact that as he had traveled throughout Alberta, radicalized youth was an issue and a concern, and they are looking at a proposal to provide enhanced policing service to address this issue, not only on the preemptive side, the intervention side, but particularly on enhancing any investigative resources that may be necessary to adequately address this issue. I know many people are saying Calgary's a hotbed. The reality is, with 90, the number 90 that was used yesterday, I would suggest that every city in this country has an issue that is of concern. Calgary's no different. We're very grateful that the Premier and the Solicitor General, Jonathan Dennis, are looking forward to receiving a proposal that would enhance our ability to respond at a local level and provide enhanced support to not only the community itself, who's been really cooperative with us, but also to assure Albertans, and particularly in this case Calgarians, that we are taking this very seriously, and there's will be extra resources available to assist.
So we've seen some of these radicalized youth come from Calgary.
Yeah.
So it would just be naive to think that there aren't still some here.
Oh, you know what? You'd have to be, in this day and age, a person would have to be immensely naive to think that somehow any city, any town, anywhere in this country is inoculated against this particular risk.
And so would there be, is it safe to say though, to assume that some people from the watch list would be in Calgary, like without giving a number?
Well, yeah, I think it's safe to assume that. Go ahead.
Chief, we talked at a radicalization summit.
Yep.
You met with many groups. I've talked to a lot of Muslim groups today who are worried, who have fears. I know you have been following up with these groups over the weeks. What do you say to them today when they're worried about how they're viewed in our city?
Well, and this is really, I'm glad you brought that up, because if you look at the numbers and the individuals across the country, you have kids that have come from Christian families who have gone to Christian schools who are being radicalized. So I don't want people to think that this is something that's, ghettoized or focused on or limited to any component of society, like the Islamic society. What we are very grateful for is the fact that we have a really good relationship with them. We're in touch with them. They want to help. As a matter of fact, there's a meeting tomorrow where we will be meeting with the collective groups, Islamic groups within Calgary, because they're offering their support. We need their help. Like any issue around crime, and make no mistake about it, this is a crime issue, we need the support and the help from the community. We are very gratified that they want to move forward. They recognize that there's issues within their community and they want to help out as well. The best success we'll ever have in addressing this issue is robust, really competent, really good police enforcement, investigation and enforcement, really good sources within the community, really good intervention strategies, and really good prevention strategies. Any gap in that continuum of services, you're going to pay the price down the road. What I'm grateful of is that here we have great investigative capacity. We also have really good support from all components in the community, including the Muslim community.
So besides this meeting that's happening tomorrow, what is the next step in this whole investigation related to the shooting for Calgary Police Service?
In regard to the Calgary connection, we have assigned resources to investigate, to look into his activities, to unearth whatever we possibly can that relates to him. We have, as I say, a great working relationship with every police service in this country. If we have to work closely with Edmonton, we will, or with Vancouver, we will. With Ottawa, we will work closely with them. But right now, our job here in Calgary is to find out what he was doing here, if he was here, where he went, who he was associated with, and build up a file that could assist in other investigations and or could also at least give us an indication of what he was doing here, even if he was involved in nothing of concern criminally or otherwise.
And is that a big thing right now, is just flagging the people he might have been associating with and then knowing if potentially they would have been radicalized as well, and then they could be a potential threat?
This is an individual that not only murdered somebody in cold blood, but also clearly had a suicidal ideation. He knew he was going to die when he went into the Parliament buildings to do whatever he intended to do. Do the people he was associating with cause us concern? Absolutely. So if there are people he was associated to in Calgary, would those people be of concern? Absolutely, they are. So we will continue to do our due diligence, to investigate, to follow up on any lead that could enhance his profile of what his makeup was, but more importantly, what he was doing in Calgary, who he was seeing.